Hi, this is Paul Breen, welcoming you to Religion Then and Now. This is a podcast where we look at the biblical roots of Judaism and Christianity and look deep into God's commands about religion that have been ignored for lack of understanding of mysteries, parables, and symbols. The title of this podcast is Confronting Christian Nationalism, Part 1. I don't know about you, but I am concerned about the movement by religious extremists to exert control over America's government and culture. This movement is known by several names, including Christian Nationalism, Antidisestablishmentarianism, the Christian Right, Accommodationism, Christian Dominionism, and other names. So what is Christian Nationalism? Here are excerpts from Christianity Today's report on what Christian nationalism is. Christian nationalism is the belief that the American nation is defined by Christianity and that the government should take active steps to keep it that way. Popularly, Christian nationalists assert that America is and must remain a Christian nation, not merely as an observation but about American history, but as a prescriptive program for what America must continue to be in the future. Christian nationalists do not reject the First Amendment and do not advocate for theocracy, but they do believe that Christianity should enjoy a privileged position in the public square. The term Christian nationalism is relatively new, and its advocates generally do not use it of themselves, but it accurately describes American nationalists who believe American identity is inextricable from Christianity. So that is an overview of what Christian nationalism is. If you want to learn more about it, here are some recent books you can check out. The Power Worshippers, Jesus and John Wayne, Taking America Back for God, The Founding Myth, and Unholy. These all document the history and expanding influence of the movement. Beyond books, articles on the topic appear frequently in major newspapers, podcasts, blogs, and news media. It is correct, therefore, to say that many concerned Americans are closely following the movement. If you want to learn more, do an internet search on Christian nationalism, where you will find a ton of resources. Beginning with this episode of Religion Then and Now, I am joining the many journalistic voices raising an alarm about Christian nationalism. But my focus is very different from all the others. Obviously, there is much reporting and analyzing of the movement, but no one is offering any ideas of how to arrest, to stop the movement. Stopping it and motivating others to stop it is what I want to do. So why should we want to stop it? There are two main reasons. First, Christian nationalism hurts people. Second, Christian nationalism is a threat to democracy. It is a thinly disguised strategy to diminish and eventually overturn our democracy and replace it with fanatical religious legalism that is based on literal interpretations of the Bible. It is a political strategy that intends to replace democratic principles with authoritarian government, in which political leaders at the highest levels of government are elected by elite religious leaders who fear loss of political control and personal relevance in a diverse society. They say they are motivated by Christian principles based on the literal Bible, but in reality they're motivated by fear. Trusting a God who is all-powerful is not enough for them. The only gods they really trust are those whom they elect to high government positions. These are the gods whom they trust to protect them and provide for them. These are the gods whom they trust, worship, and support with money, honor, and votes. Anyone who is familiar with Muslim Sharia law and Jewish religious laws knows what kind of government powerful religious leaders will create if the people whom they want to control submit to them. Analysis of what happens when man-made religious laws are converted into government legislation reveals their punitive, abusive, and unjust nature. If you think I am unfairly characterizing these laws, do a little research. Think about the influence Christian nationalism has already had in America, and try to imagine what America will look like if that influence is not arrested. What the Christian nationalists want to do is impose their Christianized version of Sharia law and Jewish law. The only differences are that Sharia laws are based on literal interpretations of the Quran. Jewish laws are based on the literal interpretations of Old Testament laws, and the laws Christian nationalists want to impose, and to some degree have already imposed, are based on literal interpretations of the Bible, especially the New Testament. The goals and strategies of these religious systems are all the same. Hyper-religious, power-hungry religious leaders exploiting Scripture for their own selfish, greedy purposes. When they are successful, people get hurt as leaders gain religious power, political power, and financial gain. I believe, and I hope you will agree, that all religious legalism, whether in religious systems or in politics, are unjust systems that must be stopped. I think it's fair to say that the leaders of the Christian nationalism movement are wolves in sheep's clothing. They wrap themselves in religious symbols, religious language, patriotic rhetoric, and the American flag, but in their hearts they are self-serving anarchists greedy for personal power. On the surface, they create an image of godliness and righteousness when they invoke the names of God and Jesus and quote Bible verses. But in their hearts, they are proud, arrogant, self-righteous Pharisees who falsely claim authority to overturn the government because God directs them to do so. Their rhetoric, their protests, and their violence are religious cover for anarchy, fear, and a need to oppress others who are not like them and do not believe what they believe. It is good and necessary to be informed about government and cultural matters, but it is even more important to be an activist who is motivated to correct injustice. The Christian nationalism movement is injustice, pure and simple. Many times God tells us to do justice for the oppressed, the afflicted, and the destitute. In fact, God tells us that the good He requires of us is to act justly, to love mercy, and walk humbly with Him. That scripture preaches well, but it means little unless you know what He means by justice, mercy, and humility. These are deep, mysterious spiritual concepts that I will explain in future Religion Then and Now podcasts. But for now, I will tell you that doing justice and mercy calls for spiritual activism that is not at all like political or social activism. That is why spiritual activists must first focus on heart change. Behaviors won't change until hearts change. That's a simple fact. Because I'm running out of time, I must end this podcast here. But there's much more to say that I will cover in future podcasts about spiritual activism focused on changing the hearts of Christian nationalists. If you come back, you will learn what it means to be a spiritual activist. I hope you will be inspired to join me on a nationwide team of spiritual activists who care about America's future. You can find my podcasts under Paul Breen on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also find them in Religion Then and Now in YouTube, Spotify, podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. One last point. I don't write and publish podcasts to make money. I will never try to sell you anything. You will always have totally free access to my writings and podcasts. Until next time, this is Paul Breen saying thanks for listening to Religion Then and Now.